Here are the top 5 questions on the scuba diving subreddit that I found, and I'm going to answer them. Question number 1, advanced open water, worth it for junior diver? Okay, this is a good question. We teach a lot of kids to dive and a lot of families to dive. The answer is yes, 100%. If your kid is a junior open water, they should go for the junior advanced, because as parents, you will dive at 18 meters, okay, as an open water, but your kids will be stuck at 12 meters. So it is recommended to do the junior advanced, which lets them go to 21 meters. Now, the thought of having your kid go to 21 meters can surprise parents a bit, but it doesn't mean you have to dive at 21 meters. So you can comfortably and safely dive at 15, 18 meters because you've had training for that. And now the whole family can dive together without feeling limited. Because a lot of times what happens is one parent is with the older kid down at 18 and another parent is with the other kid up at 12. So 100% go for the advanced open water for your kid. And once they turn 15, they won't need to do the training again. It automatically becomes an adult license, and they can use it for the rest of their lives. It's a great thing to give your kids, and it's a great thing for the family. Question number 2, a question about exhaling and ascending. All right, so the guy is asking here, it relates to the number 1 rule of scuba diving, and the number 1 rule of scuba diving is to never hold your breath, especially when you're going up. And this guy was wondering, when I go up, do I need to exhale the whole time? No, you don't need to exhale the whole time. The most important thing is to breathe normally. You never hold your breath, but you never breathe in a special way or only exhale. The most important thing is that you continuously breathe, and by doing that, you're always adjusting to the ambient pressure around you. The most important thing is that you don't hold your breath and then ascend. Because imagine you had a balloon and you had it at 10 meters underwater and you filled it up with air. If you tied off that balloon and you went up, it's going to keep increasing, it's going to pop. But if you left the bottom of that open, as if it's an open airway where you're breathing in and out, and as you traveled up, anytime your lungs would expand, you're already exhaling out and inhaling again, and it's going to be based on the ambient pressure that you're at. So just take your time when you're going up. Remember, 18 meters a minute, or no faster than your last exhaled bubbles. And just take your time, breathe normally. Don't focus too much on the number 1 rule of scuba diving is to hold your breath. Most important thing is continuously breathe, and don't do funny things with your breathing because you think it's safer. Question number 3, this is a good one. Getting started, do's and don'ts. So this person's asking, look, I've just started scuba diving. I love it. Based on all your guys' experience, what would you have done if you could have gone back and started your journey again? Okay, so thinking about this, one of the first things that came to mind is buying my own gear, but I did buy a mask and fins, which is right, but after a month I hated my fins and I ended up buying a new pair. So get the right fins, get the right mask, make sure they really fit you, make sure you're trying to understand what kind of diving you want to do, what interests you the most. But one thing I waited too long on was a dive computer. I think a dive computer is really the best tool in diving that keeps you safe, and it also gives you a level of confidence and comfort underwater because you know the situation at all times because you're constantly getting that live update. So I feel that getting gear that makes you feel safe, not overly confident you're going to do something stupid, but gear that makes you feel safe so that you feel confident in your ability to handle something that comes up underwater. The other thing I would say is dive. So that's what I did when I started, and I don't regret any of that. As a kid, I got started at like 15 in April or March, and every single month I went diving. I dove as much as I can. And anytime I had an opportunity and my instructor agreed that I was ready for my next level in training, I got my next level. I just dove my face off. And especially learning at such a young age, you catch on quick. And that's one of the most grateful things looking back for my own diving life, career, is that I just dove really often early on. And the other thing I would say is try and travel and go to different sites. One thing that I regretted when I first started is I only went to one island, which was Redang Island in Malaysia. And for 3 years, it's pretty much the only island I went to. Any diving opportunity, I went back to that island, which is good. I started to learn dive sites. I learned how to, figure out where certain resident fish lived and how to read the currents. And it made me a good diver, and it was good for my dive master training. But my real experience of worldwide or Southeast Asian diving came later on. And I wish I was more open to doing more different types of diving in different locations earlier on than when I started. Question number 4, this person's saying, look, I have 9 dives, things are going okay, but my biggest problem is air. And to tell you the truth, that is almost anyone's number one problem. Once you get over the fear of diving, if you do, have fear of diving, it always comes down to the air. And, the best thing you can do is just dive. But some things that you can try to do now to improve would be work on your weighting. A lot of times new divers are overweighted because of 2 reasons. One, it's a safety blanket. You feel comfortable having that extra weight keeping you there, but actually you don't realize how much air you're having to constantly keep in your lungs to compensate for that weight that's pulling you down, especially in the beginning when you're not using your BCD properly. The other reason is sometimes instructors will overweight you, which I don't agree with, because it's just a way to control you. So that's the one thing, is work on your weighting. You can do a simple weight check at the surface. I don't think that works the best. I think what works the best is getting in a pool and just practicing buoyancy exercises, fin pivot, hovering, turning, learning how to maneuver your body. That is the best thing you can do. Or sign up for like a buoyancy clinic with an instructor. These kinds of things, working on your buoyancy and your movement and your weighting, will give you the best results on top of experience of diving and diving and diving and diving. But the other one that I like to tell students, if they really are suffering and they need help, you need to remember that on rental rental regulators, when you're a beginner, you are using an unbalanced regulator, because that's a cheap regulator that's safe, but it's just not a high-end premium regulator. A premium regulator is balanced. An unbalanced regulator is completely shut off, and then you have to suck in, and you have to suck in greater than the ambient pressure, and it pulls in that diaphragm, which releases that valve, and then the air comes in. But the problem with, one of these rental regs or student regs is that you have to really draw on it really hard, and by the time you engage the air, you're getting a gust of air and a lot of wasted air is coming through. So what I want you to do is keep that in mind, that you're engaging this lever that shoots in air, and you don't want to rip it open. You want to just crack it slightly to let the air seep out. So think of the air as a hot cup of coffee, because if you're a beginner, you're breathing like this. Or even if you're not hyperventilating, you're breathing hard. And you're ripping open that valve, and there's a lot of waste air. But if you sip it like a hot coffee, and you just kind of draw on it slowly, until you feel that lever open and the air come in. Once the air comes in, then take a nice normal breath. But slowly pull and create that negative pressure for you to crack that seal and then take your breath. Keep that in mind and you'll save a lot of air. So experience number one, buoyancy clinic or practicing in a pool, working on your weighting, this is very important. And then just a simple trick, but also to understand what goes on in a regulator. This is something that you can remember. This is how a regulator works. So use that information to your best advantage on not wasting the air and letting it just rip through and straight out the exhaust valve before it even goes into your lungs. Question 5, this guy's asking a gift for a scuba couple that's getting married. They're getting married, he wants to spend $1,000 on them. I'll try to put myself in the shoes of receiving this gift as a scuba couple, and I would say one thing that I would probably like is either something set up at a dive center where I have unlimited tanks for a whole year, or I have a never-ending credit with a resort. Things like that is what I would like, but he doesn't want something that is like a gift card. So what I would say is try to figure out what these guys already have, okay, and then go from there. Think of gear in 2 categories. You have the soft goods, as we call it, and the hard goods. The soft goods are personal things that you have to have that fit your face, your body properly. It's not a one-size-fits-all, and those are soft goods. So that is your snorkel, your mask, your fins. Your hard goods are your BCDs, your regulators, your dive computers. So the hard goods are much larger investments, and those are usually the last things that people buy. So I would probably look at hard goods and finding out if they have like a dive computer, and you could get 2 awesome dive computers for $500 each. You couldn't really get a BCD or a reg for $500 each. That'd be a bit tough, but yeah. Also, what would be great is find out if they have like underwater camera or a GoPro. You could get them an underwater GoPro setup. That would be great. Torches, all divers love cool torches, but when you get them a torch, get them a narrow beam, because that's for night diving, signaling things, looking under rocks. Wide beam is for video, so you know if they're in video, find out how many lumens they have for that video light, and maybe you could top up and get a second one of the same lumens or a higher lumen. Check also little things like, do they have reef hooks? Do they have mesh bags? Do they have hoods? Do they have reels and SMBs? These are great things to look out for. A dive knife, all these kinds of things you could do. I would prefer an experience that I could go to, but if these guys are, already experienced and you want to get them gear and you want them to open up an actual presence, I would look at what they have now and then decide, do you want to go the soft goods route or the hard goods route. But remember, if you go the soft goods route, I would not buy them a mask or a fins if they've not tried it on or come to the store with you or told you specifically the one they want, because it's not one size fits all, and nothing's worse than a mask or a fin that doesn't fit properly. So that'd be my advice. That sounds like a cool wedding present, and yeah, thanks guys.